Tell me if you've seen this movie before. You go to your manager, you talk about a problem that's going on with the team. They look like they're listening and everything's great, and you walk away, you got it off your chest, and you think, wow, things are gonna change, and then nothing. You go back a second, a third time, and still nothing. Other team members come in with the same issues to the same manager, still nothing. Bad managers avoid conflict, and this is a red flag for you. So if you see a manager where they don't want to have the hard conversation and they're just allowing the dysfunction to thrive and take hold on the team, and meanwhile the tension builds, the work quality suffers, and then it becomes this vicious cycle of a downward spiral of work quality, and the whole team ends up suffering, all because the manager couldn't have a difficult conversation with whatever the problem person was or the situation was at hand. They just shied away from it. They just thought, hey, if I ignore this, it'll go away. A real leader actually doesn't avoid conflict. They attack it head on, nip it in the bud, and come up with a solution for a path forward. So my name's Rob. Today I am talking about 10 different signs that your manager may be the reason why you're ready to quit. And we've all seen this before, right? It's almost cliche at this point. People don't leave companies, they leave managers. It's a cliche for a reason, because it's true. I found myself in that situation twice that come to mind now. And it's a horrible situation to be in, because you end up resenting that person even more, especially if you like your job. So today we're breaking down the 10 different signs that you may look for to say, hey, you know what? Is it time for me to leave because of this manager, or do I stick it out and maybe hope things will change? So the number two warning flag you need to look for is if your manager is not engaged in your development. They have no growth plan for you. They have no mentoring, then no development, no new challenges. They want things absolutely the status quo. And you may feel like you're treading water, you're not building your career. A good manager, on the other hand, will open doors for you. You know, I loved when I would sit in a talent discussion talking about the leaders in an organization, and we hear that, you know, hey, Julie over here, she is a great exporter of talent. People go onto her team, she challenges them to get better, she develops them, and then she exports them to other teams in the organization. That is a good story. Whereas, you know, Bill over here may have the opposite. He's hoarding all of his talent. He's like, they're good at what they do. That's what I hired them for, and that's all they're going to do. And Bill's in for a rude awakening when suddenly his team is going to be gone one day, and he's left to wonder, what happened? Why would they leave me? Everything was great. No, Bill, you stuck your head in the sand and you didn't pay attention to the care and feeding of your employees, and they went to another team that will. If they can't see your potential, you actually might need to go to another leader or another organization that will appreciate not only your potential, but the skills you bring to the table. Okay, the next one is, you know, we've seen this movie before, right? It's micromanaging, and it's micromanaging to like the nth degree, where it's every step is scrutinized, and it's almost dehumanizing or soul crushing every time you have a meeting with your manager about a project or something, and they're like, well, what about step one, this too, and they're scrutinizing everything. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a boss who wanted to proof all of the communications going out about whatever topic was at hand to the organization, and I remember we were looking over this email I had drafted, and she spent 10 minutes trying to decide not to rewrite a paragraph, just what sequence they should fall in. And really, let's be real, nobody's going to read it. It's all the way at the bottom of an email that most people are going to delete anyway, but she was obsessed with which one would come first, and it was absolutely maddening, where I just disengaged from the conversation because my input was immaterial. It was a harbinger of what was to come in that relationship, because that's the only thing she knew. She had to control everything. Let's just say, I don't think I even lasted a year on that team. My point here is that your creativity is crushed or suppressed. Your confidence is gone because you feel like you're constantly making a mistake. And it's a control issue at the end of the day, micromanagement. It's not a leadership strategy. It's all about control. What could a manager like that do if they flip the script and actually just let their employees loose and be creative? They could accomplish so much more and put out such better quality of work. So if you're constantly second guessed, it's not about you 9 times out of 10. It's about your manager and their fear. The next one is A toxic manager or just a bad manager in general is one that actually ignores feedback, whether it's feedback on them and their style or something else they've got going on, or feedback just in general on whatever project is at hand. You try to share your ideas or concern in the hopes that, they will integrate that and take that and maybe pivot, do a course correction, but they don't. You get shut down or brushed off or just ignored. So over time, what do? You're just like, well, why should I bother? I'm just going to do what they want me to do because that's what success looks like. It all has to go through them. They're the bottleneck. Toxic managers actually don't want input. They will never admit that, but they don't want the input. They just want you to obey what they tell you to do and move on with their day. So I saw this quick one-liner. I don't know if it's a quote or whatever, but it is innovation dies in silence. And I thought that was so profound for this topic because people are silent after a while. They're like, why should I give you input? And just think of the problems that could be solved if people's ideas were given some oxygen that, could inform a different strategy. Now, this next one, I'm not going to lie. I've probably, as a leader, have been somewhat guilty of, and maybe it's been a blind spot for me, but is that a bad manager sometimes will overload their top performers, causing them to be burnt out. Now, the reason I say I've been guilty of this is because when you have a large team, you have your go-to people. If I could say, hey, I'm going to give this to Melissa on my team because I know I don't have to think about it once I give it to her. I know she will execute it, just excellence in mind, and I don't have to worry about it. Melissa becomes my go-to all the time. What does that do, right? It overloads her. Also, it could create some resentment on the rest of the team that Melissa's getting all of these high-profile projects or what have you, or complex projects, and they're not getting anything. So could be a blind spot for a manager, but if a manager's just, indexing on one person, you might have a conversation with them and say, hey, I know you always are giving these great projects to Melissa. Could I have some of that for my own development? Might be a good way to attack that conversation. Again, it could be a blind spot for that manager. Now, this one I would say is similar to the last one we just spoke about, where you're overloading your top performers, but this one's a little bit more, I'm going to use the word diabolical, right? And it's that bad managers actually play favorites, but from a strategic standpoint, right? They feed certain members of their team, they funnel information toward them and kind of, ice out the rest of the people on the team. And so when you've got this backdrop of your manager plays favorites, so even then, things that they do that are maybe not trying to play favorites, whether it's, behaving fairly or having some recognition or, giving people some opportunities, they feel it's rigged, right? They feel like, hey, they're just doing this because somebody told them to. At the end of the day, they still are going to play favorites. Toxic managers, it's my belief that they actually intentionally want an uneven playing field and really just want to placate or just want to play into and develop, their inner circle. A bad manager could run afoul of stuff like that and actually inadvertently step into a space of discrimination. So this poisons team morale. It creates a dramatic environment that we talked about before, that these managers, they actually are afraid of the conflict that they're creating, and then they don't want to address it, and then they've got a big mess on their hands. So again, this might be a really great example of, hey, I can't help you, manager, but I can help me, and I'm going to go over here. I would say this next one is, I've seen it show up more in new managers, right? And that's when they have no clear vision. And sometimes this is of no fault of their own, right? They get promoted, everybody's excited, and then you sit down in that job as the manager and you're like, I have no idea what to do. And they're flying without a net. Nobody's developing them. I remember feeling that way. I got promoted to director. I went from nobody on my team, no team, to 25 people across the country and in Europe. And I was just expected to suddenly know how to operate within that, how to develop everybody, all the things, right? And I remember to this day how that felt. It felt horrible. It was a lot of pressure. And for me to create a vision at that point was extremely difficult. That's why I say sometimes this isn't indicative of a bad manager or a toxic manager. This one might be indicative of somebody who's inexperienced. Now, I will say there are bad managers who do not create a vision, and that's just because they they don't give a shit. Let's be real. They may thrive in the chaos, or they're going to just deal with whatever is being put in front of their face, and that suddenly becomes a priority. That's a problem. They're not strategically moving things around on everybody's plate, so they're getting the most priority work done. Some managers actually thrive in this environment, and they lead with confusion and no clarity, and they actually like the chaos. So I would tell you this, you deserve better than that. And if you see that, a lot of those people aren't going to change. Maybe the new manager will change as they develop and get their feet under them in their new role. But if somebody is set in their ways and this is how they lead, they're probably not going to change, and it might be time for you to look for another job. This next one's a little hard to identify because well, just based on its face, right? It's a manager that's inconsistent. So just walking into the office, you never know what you're going to get. One day they're praising you, the next day they're nitpicking you, right? And you don't understand what has happened or what has transpired that causes the shift in behavior. Their mood determines the team's mood, right? You're like, Sue is in a bad mood today, therefore we're all going to have a bad day today, right? So a good manager would be able to compartmentalize better, right? And not let their bad mood affect the team, or they would be consistent in their approach and thoughtful about their approach. Most of the times these people show up and they're not thoughtful. They're just like, I'm feeling what I'm feeling and I'm going to wear it on my sleeve, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And if you're offended, that's your problem, not mine. And that's not a good leader. They do, these inconsistent managers do make the workplace feel very unstable. Even if the organization isn't like that, your small world or whatever team you're on may feel very unstable, causing you to say, you know what? I need stability in my life. I need certainty in my life. And I'm going to go find a team or another organization that's going to give that to me. So great leadership actually shows up the same way every day. Now, we're all human, sure, and then we do have bad days and stuff, but leaders know how to, put that aside or manage it in the moment so that they are showing up in a consistent fashion with their team. The next one, oh my gosh, this makes me think back to my time when I worked at Frito-Lay. I had a peer, and I remember she was standing in my door one day, and she was working we both had hard bosses, I would say. Mine was an amazing person who I still am so thankful to this day that I got to work on her team. But hers, wow. I mean, we used to kind of call her the dragon lady, her boss. And here's an example of why we say that, because this boss, and this is the next one on my list, is they didn't respect my friend's work-life boundaries. So here my friend is 8 months pregnant and was told to her face that her boss expected her to answer emails, anytime they would come in, even at midnight, and be available for phone calls at any time of the day or night. And, here's somebody who's preparing for the birth of their first child. I mean, all the things, right? And you're being told that you have to, answer emails. And if you don't answer that email, you miss that email, we're going to have a problem. We're going to talk about it. Oh, my God. I don't know how she lasted with that boss. And then, sadly, that boss... that leader was, stayed around forever. It's always those people, right? It's always those people who are toxic that seem to never leave and never get called on the carpet for this type of behavior. So if they're not respecting your boundaries, and if you're not setting those boundaries and having that conversation and saying, hey, you know what? I need time for my family after X time. Negotiate with them so they're not just running over you and you're not going to get hammered because you didn't answer an email at midnight. I still think that is wildly unacceptable. Your well-being matters. If they don't respect it, that's a problem. And unfortunately, they're probably not going to change. You're the one that's going to have to change. Again, one of my favorite things that I heard one of my favorite comedians say is, I can't help you, but I can help me. So the other one is, and this kind of creeps up over time, but you may find yourself, you're putting in 110% and you never get a thank you. You never get a shout out. You never get any recognition. And over time, that just it's so demotivating. I'm preaching to the choir. If this is resonating with you, it's demotivating. And you're like, why should I bother? I don't even get as so much a courtesy thank you for doing that. So why would you want to put forth any more effort? Toxic managers actually act like appreciation is optional. And I think being on a team and working for some of these leaders, we would say it's not. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I got a plaque or a gold star or whatever it is. It might just be as simple as a thank you. I appreciate all of the detail you put into this project or that project. A little of that goes such a long way to make people feel valued, and it also develops them. It shows them, hey, you're on the right path. This is what good looks like. Keep doing that. And by me saying thank you, just underlines that all. So here's the other thing. You shouldn't have to beg to feel valued at the end of the day. So if any of this resonates with you, first of all, I would be honored if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. But if any of this resonates with you, the problem might be your manager, not you. And if they try to gaslight you and saying, well, because I said this and you felt that, that's you, not me. Don't fall for that. They're the ones that need to flex and actually lean into you and meet you halfway. So don't let them tell you that you're the problem, not them. These patterns that they do are not only frustrating, they are actually harmful to a corporate culture, a team culture, or what have you, or even your mental health. It can be a total mind F over time, because you're just like, it kind of dings at your self-worth, right? And suddenly you feel like, hey, I can't get that promotion because you're made to feel this way over time. Again, it's not you. It's likely not you. It's most likely your manager. At the end of the day, if you recognize any of these behaviors and what I've been talking about, you might ask yourself, what am I staying for? What am I staying on this team for? What am I staying at this organization for? So ask yourself that. And then if the answer is like, you know what, why am I here and I need to change? Go and try to make a change, either internally or externally, because I think you're worth more than this toxic manager. And great managers build people up. Toxic managers just burn them out. So know the difference and protect yourself. And I hope that if you're in one of these relationships with a toxic manager, I hope you're able to weather the storm or just get out and get onto a better opportunity and have a great tale to tell. And if you've recognized these managers in your past, I'm glad to see, I hope that you've gotten into a better space at this point. So with that said, I hope each of you are well. And hey, stay tuned for a video coming out soon where I'm going to do a bit of a deeper dive into different styles under toxic management. So stay tuned for that. And until then, take care. This video was recorded and produced by Just Talk Studios, the premier video podcasting studio in Bellevue, Washington. Visit justtalkstudios.com to learn more and book your session today.